it's just one of those, it's one of those things, from about 9, 10, I knew I'm fond of music. Couldn't help it, you know, there's certain bits in records I was like, oh, I like that. My mum and dad were quite a big influence. They played a variety. My dad's a big Frank Sinatra fan, all that sort of thing. My mum would play anything from calypso to bloody pop music, you know, all sorts of things really. Motown, soul, they play a variety of things. And of course the radio was on quite a lot constantly in our house. And I was always fiddling with things to try and get, you know, the different songs on. James Brown was a massive influence for me, saw him on the telly at an early age. Jazz music, my dad's a big jazz fan, loved a lot of that, a lot of breaks and bits in that I could hear. It was always, for me, I was always a bit of the, that's a good bit of a tune, that's a good bit of a tune. So I knew from, as soon as hip hop sort of came along, I knew damn well what I needed to do. It's the best bits from certain tunes that you want to put together. But I'd say from about 9, 10, I remember buying a single when I was 10 years old. I got some pocket money and went in and bought I can't remember what the single was now, but it was an old jazz thing with a funky bongo break in the middle. It's called Bongo Rock, but I can't remember who did it. On Capitol Music, it was a very old, didn't have the middle of the 7-inch in. You had to get the middle to put in the middle, you know, I think that was the first record I bought. And then as soon as I hit 13, I remember I just went mental, I think, then from then on I was just started collecting properly, really big time. Just anything I liked, anything from Blondie to Madness to reggae to whatever was about, the Kinks, the Beatles, just started going bonkers. Anything I liked, I'd buy it.
When did you start DJing properly at home or start taking it a bit more seriously?
For Christmas, I think I was 13 and my parents bought me an Amstrad stack stereo. And I remember my friend had got one and he hated it for Christmas. So I had that one off him and I had 2 Amstrad stack stereos, bless Lord Sugar, Alan Sugar. There was no mixer and I put flannels for slip mats and just tried to blend and mix and scratch about and chop about with records then. And then I think 14, 15, my friend and I, we made some sort of belt-driven, very large turntable console at Woodwork, which was rubbish. But I did my first mixtape on it with all sorts on it, early hip-hop, rare groove, funk and stuff. It wasn't called hip-hop then, it was called electro really, I suppose. But it was more funky stuff, James Brown, you know, soul, jazz bits that I'd borrowed off. So I knew then I started to get into it about 14, 15, but I think from a serious point of view, I think I was 20 when I bought me proper Technics. For years my parents had said, don't do it, you won't make any money out of it. 'Cause my dad sings, he was going, oh, I used to sing, and he's very good, you never make any money out of it, only the lucky few. And I was like, right, I'll show you in the back of me, and I thought, you watch. But it wasn't about that, it's just something I really loved doing and really wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do it, you know. And as a kid, you're always told, don't touch it, you're not allowed to touch the record. You know, I was like, God's sake, just watch it going around, and every now and then, get off it. So I knew I had to get my own stuff and start fiddling about with it. So when I was 20, I went and got some Technics 1210s, ordered them from Japan, and I think they cost me £7 something a week for 3 years to purchase. And they're on the floor, I had nothing to put them on. I forgot to take the rubber mats off for a week and forgot about slip mats. I was like, why can't I pull anything back? You know, I'm just so excited at having them. And it just kind of went from there. So I'd say, again, really from 20, I mean, I'd started to play it. I stayed in for a whole year, then went to Corfu, DJ'd there, just blanked it, went in, didn't have any records, just used theirs. And then when I came back, I was like, right, this is what I need to do. This is the only thing I want to do. I need to DJ. And then very quickly, I was doing mixtapes for people. I worked for Well Gosh. Loads of people heard the ESP crew, Murray, and the other guy's name who eludes me now, which is Dreamscape as you now know it. Originally they were called ESP at Milwaukee's, and Helter Skelter, they did all that sort of thing. They asked me, they heard one of my mixtapes and asked me to play for them.
What music were you playing?
A mixture of sort of hip-hop and the early rave stuff was coming, so it was still a bit houseified. There was the odd break, I used to chuck break beats on 45 in on purpose because I was bored with this house thump all the time. I wanted to funk it up, and I didn't want to play any one genre, you know, I like mixing things up a bit, it's more fun for me as a DJ. So I started kind of doing that, so it was a mix of old hip-hop, you know, things like, things that were fast enough. If they weren't fast enough, I'd speed them up, like Back by Dope Demand, that's Al Nafish, Planet Rock, anything that was fast enough to go in, you know, with a house beat. So and then it was early rave days, you know, so like I say, the European stuff. So anything that grabbed my attention, really, that would go in that I thought was decent enough. And that's how it started to snowball then from there on. Leroy and Idris, 5HQ gang, were in sneakers in the Silver Arcade, and obviously I'd been a customer of theirs for a few years, as well as Rockaboom, all the shops. I'd go in every one. I'm a digger. I'd go anywhere and everywhere. If there was records in there, I'd go. You know, I'd travel to London on my own at 13, 14, buying records. And again, I was in sneakers constantly, and they said, look, you know your stuff, you know your rave stuff, you know your music. They poached me from Wellgosh. Said, can you come and work here? And of course, to me, I was like, yeah, cool, I'd love to. So Pete Turner, Wellgosh chap, he was fine. He knows how music matter was. He said, no, it's a logical progression. That's where you need to go. Off you go. So then I started working for the 5HQ guys, obviously, and the rave scene was kicking up. This was about 1990. And it kind of, then again, it seemed to explode from there. Everybody was getting into this new rave stuff. The Brits had started putting break beats in it and taking it over and sort of taking the reins, if you were, and controlling the music a bit more rather than this European thump, thump, thump all the time, which was great. It was a fantastic, refreshing change, you know, and it started to get faster a little later on. But that's kind of how it started to go into the rave kind of days, because a lot of people only know me as a sort of rave drum and bass DJ, which I'm not. I do everything, as you know, turntablism, the works. After that, it started, you know, Leroy and Idris hired me for their dues. I was already playing for ESP. Some of the bad boys, the gangsters, started hiring me because they kept hearing me, who's this new guy on the block, you know, la-di-da. So I just, you know, as long as I was fine, they were happy, I just started playing everywhere, and it just sort of progressed from there, house parties. And then, of course, the Fresh FM, the pirate radio, Fresh FM, which the guys did. They asked me to do that, which was great. I think I won 3 years on the trot, best show, best entertainer, most entertaining show, all these little trophies. I loved doing that, that was great fun. But hated my voice, it was awful. That's a different kettle of fish on the radio, as you know, it's a completely different ball game, but thoroughly enjoyed it.
How long did you do radio for?
Ooh, for about 3 or 4 years, if I can remember. It's definitely 3 years, and then a bit sporadically, because Leroy and I fell out a bit. They weren't playing ball, really, in my opinion. They'll beg to differ, I'm sure, but I think I was getting more popular than Leroy, and he didn't like it, basically, and you know, they like to control everything. He'll admit it, he's a bit of a control freak. And then people would ring up for me and they go, no, we haven't got Mastersafe. We've got SS though. I know, because my own wife at the time rang up, so we knew what they were up to. So we had a fallout, and that was shortly after I did a couple of EPs for them because I love making music as well. Obviously, that was the next progression. And then I kind of went on my own for a bit. Initially, to begin with, it was the ravey stuff. You know, that was the break beats, kind of speeded up lyrics. It was all that way. It was right for the time, you know, at the time. I'd like to remix a lot of it now. Did a few white labels. I've got a whole 11 or 12 tracks that never came out of ravey stroke drum and bass stuff that I did along the way with a guy called EQ, who produced it all really for me, helped me produce it. Because I can write it, but I can't put it in the machine at the time. You know, I was still learning to do that sort of thing. Yeah, so that was great. That took off. That was great fun. I love making tunes. And then it just went ballistic. I was playing everywhere on the rave scene. You name it, Fantasia, Perception, all the big ones, 50,000, 12,000, open-air stadiums, massive clubs, anywhere, Amnesia, everything, you name it. This would be about 90, you talk about 92, 93, 94. Went ballistic, absolutely. You know, rave, drum and bass, that was everywhere. It's all over the country.
Was that your peak?
I think it was from a commercial point of view, yes. Yeah, in that respect, I suppose. It definitely got my name about. And the thing is, though, with that sort of thing, it did annoy me afterwards, because I had a few years, my daughters were born, Morgan and Taylor, so that trying to put a damper on the thing. And the music changed a bit, and then you got a lot of bad boys come into it. A lot of people were resentful at the attitude and the way that the scene had gone, and had shifted back to the nice, funky, mellow house scene, where Sasha was in control, people like that, you know, that sort of thing was going on. So I took a couple of 2 or 3 years out, really, with the family thing and that. And to be honest, the music had changed so much to a point that if I'm not feeling it, I can't play it. I can't play music I don't like. The odd one you can slam on because it's popular, and it's, you know, but I can't play it. If it's not me, I can't play it. If I'm not feeling it, it's just that's how I DJ. You know, I've got to feel it to do it. Really, we all bastardise ourselves a little bit with the commercial scene, don't we? And then suddenly I got a second chance. Panos, bless him, was after me for a while, and a lot of DJs said, look, you've got to get Mastersafe. The Room 2 thing opened up. A lot of house music, Money Pennies, I've done all them guys. They're all opening up, but they had a Room 2. And they had no one to stand there for 4, 5, 6 hours and play everything. Bang, I was your man. So I started doing that again. I had a second wave. And I enjoyed that a lot more because people just, oh, he's just a rave DJ. And people were like, no, go in and listen to him. He's not just a rave DJ. I taught at Loughborough University for 2 years for pedestrian, turntablism, you know, things like that. So, and I've always prided myself on my skills, you know what I mean? No matter what music I'm playing. I just 8 hours a day on my hands and knees practicing for 18 months before I even bothered to do a mixtape for anybody. I had to make sure it was good for me before anyone else could hear it. And that then showed up in the Room 2. You know, I could go for house mixing, scratching. You'd start with R&B, old school and new school, as you've heard me, fiddler, I know you have. And then I'd go through house, new and old, anything. Reggae, drum and bass. If I thought it would go on, I'd even chuck Frank Sinatra in here and there. Do you know what I mean? Beatles, all sorts of things. If I could get away with it, and it made people dance, then I'd do it. I'd do it. And that was great, because I got a second wave then. It was mostly Leicester, but it was, you name it, R-Bar, Fat Cats. I had the Revolution bar when that opened. Now, that first opened, I was doing Thursday, and then eventually they got me onto Saturday, because Thursday was busier than the Saturdays, and there was a queue from 9 o'clock, I kid you not, I was on at 9, 4 deep queue, still till 2 in the morning of people trying to get in to hear me play. And it only holds 1,000 people, so I was like, and the guy, the thing is with Revolution, they kept having different managers, and they go, oh, I don't really, you know, a lot of mixed race people in there. I said, you're in Leicester, mate. What? Sorry, you're from Manchester. Go home. You know what I mean? Go home. Don't be so stupid. This is what the people want. This is what I'm playing. So there's a lot of politics, unfortunately, on the second time round with the Room 2 stuff and stupid bar managers. You know, like, I play the music, mate. You pull the pints. That's how it works. And that was a bit irritating. But those idiots aside, I mean, I did Weavers, you name it, any place in town, I've done it, you know, Starlight, the whole shebang. And then I'd do other things. I'd do Money Pennies in Birmingham for them. I've done Hacienda back in the day, not Room 2, but, you know, the rave days. But the Room 2 stuff was good. I'd play around Lincoln, Nottingham, you know, Sunday nights, Nottingham Bar or something, all their Revolution. Done most of the Revolutions around the Midlands. Yeah, so it was good. But the problem was it was anything from 2 hours to sort of 5 or 6 hours. I do 6-hour sets at Revolution. I don't know anyone that can do that, do you know what I mean? Constantly as well, you know what I mean? There's no gap in the mixing at all. There'd be just constant scratching and mixing and 2 decks, 2 CDJs, going like an idiot, you know, 2010. But I loved it. So, you know, if people didn't love it, they won't come back the next week and enjoy it. So it's just a pleasure to do it for people.
So that was what, around late 90s and stuff?
That was a very late 90s. I think that was about 1999 that Revolution opened, if I remember correctly. My dates are a little bit sketchy via a year or so, because obviously I've done so much. It's not just about the skills, it's about being able to deal with all sorts of music, and I can do all the scratching and cutting and juggling and stuff. And that's what I love. It's like a martial art to me. And that seemed to then start to come into the mix a bit, because I started doing like Watty and Yes and people like that started. Watty in particular would say, can you do some scratching on this? People asked me, can you help me with the beats for that? Mark, MYNC Project, phoned me up. He was working for Virgin EMI at the time. He said, can you come and do our Christmas office party? You know, Kylie's there and people like that. And it sort of went in lots of different directions. People suddenly realised I was back in the mix, you know, I was back on the turntables, and it was kind of, it's a bit Lord Lucan-ish. You know, where's Mastersafe gone? And then bang, oh, hang on, is Money Pennies, Room 2, oh, wait, he's doing this. But I wouldn't just do Room 2, I did the first room, you know, warm up for everybody, get it going. I seem to be doing bits of everything for everybody. Leroy would then be doing sort of old school do's, drum and bass in one room, which was great, so I got to play all those old drum and bass tunes again. So it started to go off on lots of different angles. So that's how it kind of went. I started doing a bit more studio work with people and just sort of diversifying, really. And obviously doing workshops, did a bit of that for pedestrian as well, you know, teaching kids, you know what that's all about, that sort of thing. Radio work, basic mixing and advanced scratching techniques and all that sort of thing. So it was good, it diversified, which kept me happy and occupied. And obviously the Room 2 gigs were still going as well.
What other DJs on the scene would you say were making noise?
Oh, we did the garage thing as well. Sorry, I missed that bit out. The garage scene was rife as well. What are the DJs? I mean, I've played with all of them, obviously, bless. obviously I played with Leroy and the crew. There was your guys, I've forgotten the bloody names now. Is it Jason? Jason? Yeah, all that lot. I played with OJ, you know, those. It was nice to bounce about with other people and see what they were doing. Scratchy One, you know, all these guys. It's all those guys. It's great to bounce around. The old, I mean, an influence for me, of course, as well was the, what do they call themselves? Classic Groove Control. Derek and Paul and the gang, you know. And, Kim De Silva, the Smurf, he was in there originally. So it was nice to bounce about and work with different people and see what they were doing. You know, 1 minute I'd be with the R&B gang, and next minute I'd be, 2 hours later I'd be doing a house set with OJ at Money Pennies, you know, another hour later I'd be at Junction 21 doing a drum and bass revival mix or something, you know what I mean? Chucking reggae over the top of it, you know, Dawn Pen and stuff like that. So it was good again because it was varied and varied, and I got to look at what other DJs were doing and test my skills against them and see, you know, what levels they're up to and how they're doing things. It was good, but then what did irritate me, I noticed a lot of DJs, the vinyl started disappearing, and with technology, the CDJs started appearing, and there was a lot of people DJing then that had no disrespect to them. I know they were trying, but they earned my respect from the turntable side of things, you know what I mean? And no disrespect to them, I'm sure they're very good at what they do, but yeah, it's good seeing what people do. So there's too many DJs. I played with all the top boys, obviously, as well, you know, back in the day, so it's good. I mean, Top Buzz, they still try getting, what's his name, Jason, is it Jason K? I think it's Jason K. I saw him not long ago. He's like, Facebook me. Yeah. So it's good, you know, try and keep in contact with everybody, but it's a bit difficult when you've got kids. I think from a DJ perspective, it's now anybody can be a DJ. Like I used to practice 8 hours solidly to do what I do, and I get a bit peed off, I'll be honest. I get a bit angry sometimes when somebody steps up, they just push a button, do this and do that, and it does everything. You're like, they still don't know where to set things on and off, and their skills are not good enough in how they play a crowd. Because a lot of people turn up, young DJs. I did it myself when I first started. I want to play my sets, all brand new music. And you suddenly quickly learn that, hang on, nobody's dancing. And it's horrible, but guys don't, you have, very quickly I learned to watch a crowd. And I think it doesn't matter what format you're on, if you don't watch a crowd, then you're not going to get that, you know, you're not going to get the crowd going. And it's difficult. Now myself, I've got to learn the CDJs and I do Serato or Serato, whatever you call it. And I just love the vinyl, it's more fun for me. But I know when I go to a club now, I'll take a box of records and 2 memory sticks and a pack of CDs, and you don't know what to expect. So technology is good in one respect, but it's like drums and guitars and pianos. When they all went electric, everyone went bonkers on them for a while, didn't they? And, oh yeah, this will do away with acoustic guitar, but it didn't, did it? And that's why I'm slightly a bit sore-headed that turntables have gone that sort of, well, they don't make them anymore. They're now, they don't make them, no, very rarely. Their Technics don't make them, so they're now an antique. So I'm hanging on to mine for that reason alone.
What are you up to currently then?
I've just got back from, I did the Miami Music Conference, which I've always wanted to go, and Mark Brown and his brother Matthew Brown, aka MYNC Project and MC Fever, bless them, rang me up out of the blue because I taught Mark to mix, obviously, and he said, look, I'd like to give you something back. Can I take you to Miami? I want you to do the closing party for me at my record label's bash over there. So I was thoroughly delighted and had a marvellous time, and it was an honour to go over there and DJ on the beach at the closing party. So I've just done that. I've got some bookings for next year from it, and I met their respective agents in Spain and Australia, and I've got a booking in Australia with the guys there. The Aussies were fantastic fun. They know how to party. Met a load of them there. The Peking Duck Boys, big shout to them, and Paul, their guy. They're good guys. They are hilarious. And of course, all of the MYNC projects. So I've just done that. I'm hoping that'll open up a few more doors. As far as Leicester goes, I do the odd thing if the money's right and the crowd's right and it's something I want to do and I'm going to enjoy it. I've just done a do for Genetic, those guys there at Canvas. I want to get back into making more tunes, you know, being creative as well as the DJing. I'm trying to get more on the international circuit, to be honest. I find the clubland in this country is not what it used to be. It's something we'll talk about another day, I think. So I've got a lot of gripes with it. But that's basically where I'm at the minute. I'm slowly getting back into it. I've just recently moved, so there's a few issues there with things with setting everything up. And I'm about to move again in a year, so Do you know what I mean? But that's what I really want to do. I want to get back into production of tunes and doing that sort of thing. I'd really love to set my own label up and do that as well. That's something I've always wanted to do. I mean, initially I wanted to be a DJ, only for a hobby. It was never a make money out of it, become infamous or famous or whatever. That wasn't my aim. My aim was purely I'd do it because I enjoy it. And then it became to a point where everyone else is enjoying what you're doing, might as well get a few quid for it and do it publicly. Of course, I'd like to do that again, but I'm very picky now where I play and who I play for and what I do in this particular country. It's, I think it's lost it a bit.
If you had to pick just one genre that you love the most, what would it be?
Hip-hop, without fail, hip-hop. I'm hip-hop. Whatever I do, however I mix, hip-hop for me is you take the best bits of everything, whether it be a break, a record, you take the best bits from each scene and you mash it, fuse it all together. That to me what hip-hop is, you know. I've just been to Amsterdam and they're breaking on concrete, on cobbled stones. I even did a bit of up rock with them, but I don't get down because I'd hurt myself. But I'm hip-hop through and through. I'm not being rude, hip-hop today has lost it in the mid-90s for me from a musical content. That's the American side of things. The British hip-hop's more up to date for me personally, but I'm hip-hop. The way I dress myself, the way I go about my music, I'm hip-hop. That's what that influenced me more than anything else, I would say, definitely. I don't know, I love music. I've always wanted to do DJing. I really want my own label. I'm not finished yet. You know, I'd like to progress a bit. A lot of DJs take a bit of time out to do whatever, maybe family stuff or whatever, or in Groove Rider's case, detained at Egypt's Majesty's pleasure for a bit. But, you know, we all take time out for whatever reason. You know, stuff happens, doesn't it? So music changes, the genre changes. I mean, in this country, as you know, the licensing, the club licensing laws, the policing, that's become a lot more difficult, and I think that suppressed it in this country. Whereas if you go abroad, they're a lot more open for these things. The Americans are incredibly welcoming. You know, hey, can we have a party on the beach? Yeah, they're like that, sod it, let's do it, let's work around the rules, let's do it. You know, they're really, in this country we put up barriers, we make it difficult. The kids are going to party whether you like it or not. I'd rather give them somewhere to go than have them do it in illegal raves that's run by gangsters and things like that. We need to address it properly in this country. That is a big problem, personally, that I think we were at the forefront of music. I think we still are from a production point of view, because our music goes right across the world, not just dance music, but, you know, everything. The bands, the big bands, everything, Kasabian, you know, everybody.
Are you talking about Leicester?
Yeah, not just Leicester, but, you know, UK as a whole. Leicester as well, it's got some fantastic stuff, as we know, but we're just not good at putting on the club side of things here. It's only festivals. It's all festivals now, which I think is wrong. It's wrong. Back in the day, and I know this sounds awful, I shouldn't talk about the drug culture, but they are entwined. Wherever you go, you're going to get, they're entwined. Music and drugs are entwined. But that aside, back in the day, you had drug dealers that would go to a rave purely to fund their own habit. They weren't out to make money. They did it because they wanted to enjoy themselves. They were going to take drugs, and so were the mates. Then later on, when the music scene started to get into the early drum and bass days, the big gangs got involved. These gangs want to make money. They weren't bothered about who they trod on. They unfortunately brought their aggressive behaviour with them, and like you say, that then buggered the clubland because there was fighting, there was turf wars, there was gang wars over drugs, and the innocent people in the middle, us, the promoters, the DJs, you know, the ones that, hang on a minute, this is about raving, it's about enjoying yourself, not shooting the bloody ceiling to bits just because a good tune's come on. All the normal people have buggered off because they're terrified, you know what I mean? That really didn't help. And then, of course, the government, they couldn't police it properly. They didn't understand it, so they just stopped the licensing. They closed clubs down. There's a club in Birmingham recently just had a gunshot go off. Never had any problems, a house do. Loads of idiots got in, the gun's gone off, licence revoked, you're not doing it anymore straight away. And that's wrong, they've ruined it. It's not our fault, you can't police it. We've got doormen, you know. What are they going to do against 30 strong people with 20 odd guns in their hands? What are they going to do, you know? I think it's wrong. It's not fair on the club scene. Kids are going to do this regardless of where they do it. I remember one day, I can't remember who was saying now, I'm not sure who it was, but there was somebody saying, I overheard a conversation with a policeman was stood there saying, literally, you're going to have to pay us to police your club because it's come to, and I'm like, hang on a minute. I know football grounds do it, but that's a different kettle of fish. Now, you see what they did? They eradicated the football hooliganism. The football hooligans then went into the rave scene, and they were quite happy because they were peeled off their heads, but there was no trouble. But you see what I mean? Then the trouble does start, and rather than sort it out so that people can have party safely and enjoy themselves, they just close places down. Well, the kids are going to end up on the park or in an illegal rave where it's not safe, it's run by bad people, and that's giving the scene a bad name. And I think that's happened with the house scene, the drum and bass scene, the garage scene. It's happened with the R&B scene. It's happened along all the way. Now all you're left with is these crappy commercial clubs that get the odd big DJ in the odd night, where it's then rammed full of people. You know what I mean? It's not spread out. It used to be spread out. In Leicester, you could go, where are you going tonight? Or it's Total Chaos on, there's this on, there's that on, there's that on. All right, Total Chaos was the biggest thing, but there was 5, 6, 7 others, there was after parties. Now you're all confined to 1 or 2 places, which means that there's going to be even more trouble. It's dragging itself back a little bit, because I know some of the young kids at my gym that one's done a rave on Sunday in some old warehouses at the back of the bus station in a little tunnel, and the council gave him the go-ahead, which I was very surprised at. He did one there before, but he's had to beg the council to be able to do it for 3 years. You know, he's been trying to, got all this, ticked all the boxes, you know, done everything he can. He's a young lad, he loves music, he wants to promote himself as a DJ, promoter, and he's just finding wall after wall after barrier after barrier after barrier, and I think that's wrong. I think the powers that be have buggered it in this country for us a bit, I think, and it's wrong, because all they're doing is driving it underground again. It's total. I know for a fact that rave underground warehouse parties are coming back. Because I know some of my mates are trying to bloody do the things, so that's how I know, because they've tried to enlist me to play, and I said, I'm not playing unless it's completely safe, you know what I mean? I'm not getting nicked. For me, my influence is just what I heard a lot of the time. My friends would influence me a little bit, and obviously I've got favourite DJs from back in the day, Grandmaster Flash, you know, Cool DJ Herc, the original hip-hop crew, and Spin Bad, you know, the original hip-hop DJs. Carl Cox, you know, other DJs. Everybody's been a bit of inspiration for me. So, you know, I've sat there and listened to them, and listened to what they play, see how they do it. And I think you're stupid if you don't take a bit from everybody and, you know, learn a little bit from everybody. You know what I mean? I believe I'm a good all-round DJ. Like I said, I can play a bit of everything. But for me, usually it was the music that influences me. It's that, you know, I hear a tune and I'm off. But people around me, with my family, bless, I think they understand it more now. It's like, now, yeah, I think like when I went to Miami recently, obviously I got taken there as a guest, you know, VIP, and my dad was like, what? He couldn't understand. Now he understands, and funnily enough, I played for my father. He asked me to play for him. He sings beautifully. It's Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. That's where I got the music gene from. That's where my daughter Morgan is passed down to the first one, bless her. She sings beautifully. I can sing, but I tend to croon and take the mickey, really. But my dad sings brilliantly, and he asked me to do Mayango, where the Queen was. He's had 13 gigs there at Christmas, bless him, and he asked me to do the New Year's Eve one with him. All he hears me is doing this all night. Ah, good times, good times. So he's like, turn that bloody rap music off, I don't get it. So he was terrified. And I went on, got all my old disco tunes out, a couple of house, because they're all 50-something, plus in Mayango. It's New Year's Eve. Got the whole place jumping up and down, couples swinging. Oh, my dad and my mum were dancing. They couldn't believe it. So then they realised that, you know, they're all go for it now, but they didn't realise back in the day they weren't an influence. They just told me to stop.
Formation records and Leroy and Idris, that was a big thing for you.
That was. I was already playing for ESP. It was, yes, it was a platform, and I never did it for that. I was terrified. I was absolutely nervous of playing in front of people, as most people are. I remember going on, I had the shakes. Really badly, but you just get used to it. But yeah, it was. Of course, it was a platform. Without that, I mean, I played for ESP, which is a good start. And then about 6, 7, 8 months later, Leroy and Idris, because I was still playing a bit of hip hop. I played a bit of hip hop for them. But you go in the hip hop room and it was all attitudes, coats. Like, it's 90 degrees in here, mate. When you got your coat off, there's no need for that attitude. Grow up. Hip hop started to get that bad element in it. You know, the gangster rap crap, which I enjoyed myself at first, but then it got too silly. And I went to the rave room and I was like, everyone's enjoying themselves, they're all loving it. All right, the music's a bit iffy at first, but you know, you think I can do something with this. But yeah, definitely a platform, definitely did help. ESP, Leroy and Idris, yeah, it was definitely a platform. I wouldn't lie. And then Pedestrian, you know, Loughborough University, I'd say everything's a platform anyway. Going to Miami has given me a kick up the backside again to, you know, I stood there in front of 1,000 people on the beach and they're all, you think, what have I been doing? But like I say, life takes you on, you know, different paths and journeys, doesn't it? You know, with families and things. And and so on. And it's, but I always keep a hand in. That's it. You know, I still do it at home. If I'm not doing it publicly, people will tell you, "You coming out?" "No, I'm on the turntables. Bugger off." "You can come round, listen if you want." So that's a challenge. My friends come round quite a lot and go, "Right, we'll pick a box or we'll throw anything at you. You've got to mix it, scratch it, mix it, do everything you can to get it in." So we do that quite often. And they'll sit there and just go, "How does he do it?" "I don't know how he does it." Just use all my tricks. But it's just good fun. I love doing it. I just love it. Well, like I said, I'd like to get back into making music. I'd really like to get on the international circuit a bit, just so people know that I've got skills, and I'm, you know, I know Leicester people know, bless them, and I love the Leicester people. I did a gig for Leroy, just get this in, at Christmas at, I forget where it was now, somewhere in town anyway, somewhere in town, and about 30 people turned up. I did a gig in Loughborough about a week later, a week before that, the entire Loughborough people came out. It was in, I forget the bloody bar now. It was a small custard bar. It used to be the custard bar. It was in there, so it didn't hold. But I tell you what, everybody that was an old raver came out. Everybody. And it was fantastic to see. That's the only thing with Leicester people. They're a bit fickle. I love them dearly, because they are brilliant and they've given me a lot of support. But occasionally they can be a bit bloody fickle. Do you know, they can't be asked to get off the backsides and go and support their local DJs, and they should do. So please do so, because you've got a lot of talent in this city, and it's going unnoticed. And it shouldn't be. There's a lot of people here that should get recognition, and they've worked bloody hard. You guys, yourselves, you know, the Too Funky crew, you know, we all work hard for very little recognition. So I've been quite lucky, really, to a degree. But there's a lot of DJs out there that are very good and not getting the recognition that they deserve. But it's hard. It's not so much how good you are. It's a lot of the time it's your connections. You know, I know lots of DJs are crap. I won't mention too many names, Boy George, Nigel Byrne, could go on for hours. They're crap. They are crap, and I don't mean it. Stick to what you should be doing. You know, don't try and muscle in on our game, because you're rubbish at it. And unfortunately, it's because of who they know and their good agents that they get gigs, and that's wrong in my plan. I don't mean to slag them.